If you think the government didn't know, you're adorable. Charlie wasn't killed by madness. He was killed by management.
And I want to thank the Turning Point USA board and my husband's chief of staff, the amazing Mikey McCoy.
Mikey was behind the tent when Charlie got shot, and Mikey, in less than a second, does something that I find to be quite strange. He puts his phone to his ear, and he begins a conversation.
What if the truth was hidden? Not behind a scandal, but behind a smile. In a world where every tragedy becomes a headline, one story still refuses to make sense. The shocking final moments of Charlie Kirk and the strange calm of the people closest to him. A viral video has captured something that even the most loyal followers can't explain. The sound of a single shot. A man standing just a few feet away. Mikey McCoy, Charlie's chief of staff and supposed best friend. Instead of rushing to help, he lifts his phone to his ear, turns, and walks away. And days later, Charlie's widow, Erika Kirk, steps onto a stage and calls him, not once, but twice, the amazing Mikey McCoy. Coincidence or choreography? Tonight, we're going beyond the headlines. We'll uncover the contradictions, the praise, the silence, and the unanswered question that has split an entire movement in half. Because in this story, what's missing may be more powerful than what's shown. Before we begin, make sure to like this video, subscribe to Inside the Billionaires, and turn on the bell, because what you're about to see has been hidden in plain sight for weeks. And at the end of this video, you'll understand why so many people now believe Charlie Kirk's final chapter wasn't written by fate, but by design. It started with just a few seconds of footage. No narration, no explanation, just silence, and a single shot that changed everything. The video was captured on a shaky phone camera during a TPUSA event in Utah. You can see Charlie Kirk sitting under a tent, surrounded by his closest team. The crowd is calm, the music light, until the moment everything stops. A sudden crack echoes through the air. In that instant, every person flinches, except one. Mikey McCoy, Charlie's chief of staff, stands only a few feet away. He doesn't shout, he doesn't move toward his boss. Instead, he slowly raises his phone to his ear, turns his back to the scene, and begins to walk away. That single movement, captured on camera, became the spark that lit up the internet. Millions of viewers replayed it in slow motion. Was he calling for help? Was he in shock? Or did he already know what was about to happen? Social media exploded. Some said Mikey's calmness showed discipline. Others called it too calm to be real. On TikTok and X, the clip was dissected frame by frame, every gesture analyzed like evidence in a courtroom. Then, someone noticed something else, a detail that would fuel even more suspicion. Mikey never appears to dial a number. His phone is already at his ear. No visible panic, no searching for signal, no visible reaction to the chaos behind him. If you freeze the frame right before Charlie falls, Mikey is already gone. The crowd screams, security rushes in, and the man who should have been closest to Charlie disappears from the shot. And yet, just days later, that same man would be called amazing, not by a colleague, not by a friend, but by Charlie's own wife. What happened in those few seconds may hold the answer to a much bigger mystery, one that goes far beyond a single video. A few days after that haunting video spread across the internet, the world expected tears, grief, and silence. Instead, they got a speech. Standing under the bright lights, Erika Kirk, the widow of Charlie Kirk, took the stage for the first time since the tragedy. Her tone was calm, her smile measured. And then came the line that froze the audience. And I want to thank my husband's chief of staff, the amazing Mikey McCoy. A pause. Then again, with greater emphasis, the absolutely amazing Mikey McCoy. For a brief moment, the crowd clapped, unsure if they should. It wasn't the grief-filled tribute people expected. It sounded rehearsed, deliberate, almost like a message. To outsiders, it seemed harmless. But to those who had seen the footage, the words landed differently. Why praise the man who, in the video, appears to walk away just seconds before her husband collapses? Why repeat his name twice, in a tone that sounded more protective than thankful? Some believe it was emotional instinct, a widow clinging to the few people left around her. others believe it was something far more strategic. Because right after her speech, TPUSA's social media accounts began sharing clips highlighting Mikey's bravery and composure. Hashtags appeared: Amazing, Mikey, and TPUSA Strong. Almost as if someone wanted to rewrite the narrative before the public could ask too many questions. In political circles, timing is everything. And Erika's words, her calm voice, her perfectly chosen phrasing, felt less like gratitude and more like the start of a campaign to defend a man under fire. But behind every carefully chosen word, there's usually a reason. And in this story, the reason begins with a single unanswered call. Because what Mikey did in those first seconds after the gunshot, and who he was calling, could explain everything. Every mystery has a single moment where everything turns. And in this story, it was the call. Seconds after the gunshot, witnesses say Mikey McCoy lifted his phone to his ear. No dialing, no hesitation, just connection. But who was on the other end? Days later, two different stories emerged, both impossible to fit together. In one version, Erika Kirk tells the New York Times that she was sitting in her mother's hospital room when Mikey's name lit up her phone. He said, "He's in trouble," she recalled softly. "Before he even spoke, I knew." But according to Pastor Rob McCoy, Mikey's father, the call went to him. He told reporters, "My son called me right after it happened. He said, 'Dad, Charlie's been shot in the neck. There's blood everywhere. Please call every pastor and pray.'" Two different calls, two different stories, both claiming to have happened at the same time. If Mikey truly called Erika first, how could he have given his father such graphic details about a scene he'd already left? If he called his father first, when did he have time to call Erika? And if both were true, why didn't either mention a three-way call? When investigators slowed down the footage, they noticed something else. In the video, Mikey's back is turned to the chaos. He couldn't have seen any injury, let alone describe one. So how did he know it was the neck? And why did his father repeat the covered in blood detail when the video shows Mikey spotless, walking calmly away? The inconsistencies piled up like puzzle pieces from two different boxes. What was supposed to be a simple moment of panic now looked planned. Each retelling polished, each quote rehearsed. And yet, there's one thing all three accounts, Erika's, Rob's, and the footage, have in common. Mikey never once turns back. Was that call a cry for help? Or a signal to someone who already knew what had just happened? Because if the call wasn't meant for Erika or his father, then who was it really for? When the questions started spreading faster than the official statements, Turning Point USA knew they had to respond. The internet was already filled with slow-motion clips, analysis threads, and accusations. "Why did Mikey walk away?" became one of the most searched phrases of the week. So TPUSA sent out their spokesperson, Andrew Colvett, to calm the storm. "These allegations are disgusting and false," he said in a live interview. "I was right next to Mikey when it happened. We both heard the crack. We didn't know if there was an active shooter. Our instinct was to move, not because we were abandoning Charlie, but because we thought there could be more gunfire." It sounded logical, even compassionate. But the footage told a different story. No one in the background seems to flinch as if under fire. No sudden rush for cover, no chaos. Only one man moves, and that man is Mikey McCoy. Viewers dissected every frame, looking for signs of panic, but found something else. His body language is calm, controlled, his face expressionless. He lifts the phone smoothly, not shakily. There's no fumbling, no trembling, no confusion, just one continuous, practiced motion. If it was fear, it didn't look like it. If it was instinct, it was too perfect. Critics began to say what others only whispered. That wasn't panic, that was precision. Because in that critical second, while everyone's world was collapsing, Mikey's reaction looked like something already decided. Almost as if he knew exactly what to do and exactly when to do it. And if that's true, then TPUSA's statement didn't close the story. It opened a new one. The question now wasn't whether Mikey ran away. It was why his story, Erika's story, and the official story never matched. By this point, the story had splintered into fragments. Each version slightly different, each person defending their own truth. And when three versions of the same moment refuse to align, that's not coincidence. That's choreography. Let's piece it together. Version 1. Erika says Mikey called her first, voice trembling, saying only, "He's in trouble." Version 2. Pastor Rob McCoy insists his son called him, describing a neck wound and blood everywhere. Version 3. TPUSA's spokesperson, Andrew Colvert, claims he was with Mikey the whole time, and that Mikey's first reaction was to call Erika, then his father. 3 stories, 3 sequences. But the problem isn't just what's said, it's what's missing. There are no call logs, no timestamps, no official confirmation from phone carriers or investigators, and the viral footage doesn't show Mikey typing, swiping, or even unlocking his phone. He simply lifts it to his ear. Witnesses said he stayed on that call for over a minute, facing away from the chaos, speaking calmly, while others were shouting for medics. Yet, when pressed, no one, not Erika, not Rob, not Colvert, could say exactly who was on the line at that moment. It's as if every version was rehearsed to sound emotional, but not provable. Every retelling adds details that make the picture blurrier, not clearer. Maybe that's the point. Because the more contradictions there are, the harder it becomes to find the truth. Some believe this confusion is accidental, the result of trauma and shock. Others believe it's strategic, a way to flood the story with noise until no one remembers what really happened. And when silence, confusion, and timing all align, it doesn't feel like chaos anymore. It feels like control. Every version feels rehearsed, except the truth. When stories stop making sense, people start connecting the dots themselves. And what began as a tragedy has now turned into one of the most debated mysteries in American conservative circles. Weeks after the incident, an anonymous post appeared online claiming to be from a TPUSA insider. The writer didn't reveal their name, they didn't have proof. But their words had something else: logic. According to the post, Charlie Kirk had started questioning his own organization in the months before the incident. He had reportedly discovered irregular financial channels, unexplained donations, shell companies, and private deals tied to influential donors. He wanted to launch a full internal audit, a move that, if real, could have exposed millions of dollars in hidden money flows. The post claimed that when Charlie began asking questions, some of the biggest names behind TPUSA saw it as a threat. Not because of politics, but because of money. And that's when things started to change. A few key sponsors quietly pulled out. Events were rescheduled. Security protocols were restructured. Then came the day of the Utah incident, and everything stopped. In the days that followed, something extraordinary happened. Erika Kirk, who had never held an executive role, stepped into the spotlight. Within a week, she was being called the new face of Turning Point USA. Her speeches were polished, her media coverage glowing, her composure almost unnatural for someone newly widowed. And standing just behind her, always silent, was Mikey McCoy. Online, people began to ask the question no one wanted to say out loud. Was this the natural rise of a devoted widow? Or the execution of a plan that had been in motion long before that September morning? Because when timing, power, and silence align perfectly, it's rarely coincidence, it's choreography. And if the insider post was even partially true, then Charlie Kirk's downfall wasn't just tragedy, it was a transition. The rise of a widow or the execution of a plan. When chaos surrounds you, silence becomes power, and no one understood that better than Erika Kirk. Just days after the nation watched the most shocking footage in TPUSA history, Erika appeared again, radiant, confident, and calm. No tears, no trembling voice. Instead, a smile that felt almost rehearsed. I want to thank the first responders, the amazing Mikey McCoy, and everyone at Turning Point USA. Those words, repeated over and over in interviews, began to feel less like gratitude and more like narrative control. Her tone never cracked. Her timing was perfect. Every appearance, every gesture, every pause seemed designed to stabilize a story that was falling apart online. At the same time, Mikey McCoy completely vanished from the public eye. No interviews, no social media, no statements, just silence. To the public, this dual contrast, Erika's composure and Mikey's disappearance, created a strange symmetry. She spoke too much. He spoke not at all. And between the two extremes, the truth began to blur. Some PR analysts say this was textbook crisis management. Keep the face of the brand visible, calm, strong, unbroken, while removing the controversial figure until the outrage fades. But to others, it felt calculated, like a deliberate division of roles. One speaks to guide the narrative, the other disappears to avoid destroying it. In that balance of noise and quiet, the story evolved from tragedy to theater. Because sometimes, silence doesn't mean innocence. Sometimes, it's part of the design, the space between the words where the real message hides. And if you listen closely, you'll realize something haunting. In this story, the loudest part of all is what nobody says. In every empire built on loyalty, there's always one moment when trust begins to crack. For Turning Point USA, that moment wasn't a gunshot. It was everything that happened after. Because loyalty isn't tested when things are easy. It's tested when the spotlight burns brightest, and silence starts to sound like strategy. Inside TPUSA, the picture that once looked united now feels like a hall of mirrors. Every version of the story reflects a different truth. And each reflection hides the same question. Who really controlled what happened next? Was it grief? Or was it governance? Was Erika's composure the strength of a widow? Or the precision of a leader who knew the cameras were rolling? And was Mikey's silence the guilt of a man who saw too much? Or obedience to an order higher than friendship? No one knows for sure. But what's clear is this. When power, influence, and image collide, truth becomes negotiable. And sometimes, the people who once stood shoulder to shoulder begin to play different roles in the same story. This isn't just about one tragedy or one organization. It's about what happens when faith becomes business and loyalty becomes leverage. A world where the line between ally and rival fades under the spotlight, and where a perfectly timed silence can protect an empire longer than any speech ever could. Charlie Kirk may have believed in transparency, but transparency rarely survives where power is currency. And for those who now sit in his place, the lesson is written in quiet letters across every unanswered question. Trust is fragile. Power is addictive. Silence is protection. Because sometimes empires don't fall from outside attacks. They collapse from within, one secret, one lie, one loyal smile at a time. The truth may be delayed, but it never disappears. And maybe one day, when the silence finally breaks, we'll understand whether this was a story of loyalty or the quiet construction of a new empire. And that is where the story stands. A tangle of silence, suspicion, and strategy wrapped around the final hours of a man who built a movement. Was it loyalty? Was it betrayal? Or something far more calculated, hidden behind a carefully polished smile? We may not have all the answers yet, but one thing is certain. Truth never hides forever. It waits, watching, until someone brave enough decides to ask again. Here at Inside the Billionaires, we don't chase gossip. We follow the patterns of power that shape every headline. Because behind every public tragedy, there's always a private script. So, what do you believe? Was this just a tragic coincidence, or a cover-up that reached the top of TPUSA? Tell us in the comments below. And before you go, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss what they don't want you to see. Next episode, we go deeper into the money, influence, and media power that kept this story alive. Until then, remember, power speaks loudly, but silence speaks the truth.